All right, this next splint is a Bulky-Jones splint. It's probably one of the only splints that you will do for the lower extremity. A couple of things with this splint. You want to position the cast stand in the proper place, and that's going to be between either the third and fourth metatarsals. But it really kind of depends on how the patient is. If the patient supinates or pronates their foot, sometimes you do need it way over on the fifth if they tend to supinate. So it kind of really depends on the patient. You definitely need 90 degrees at the ankle. A nice flat foot. You must start with Jones dressing. And there's no scientific perfect way of wrapping this. It does look messy, this part at least. You only need one layer of that, and then you're going to take web cast padding and compress this. This is where it gets really tricky. You really want to compress your padding. Don't hold it like you normally would roll your cast padding. You actually leave the cast padding on the patient and compress. Now this could also be used for a long leg Bulky-Jones dressing. That's not unusual as well. You can use this for anything from post-operative ankle surgeries, ankle fractures, distal tibias. If you're going to include long leg, it could be tibia fractures, could be femur fractures as well, distal femur fractures. Again, compressing. And now that I got it compressed, the majority of it, my patient wants to not be at 90 degrees, which is very common for a patient. You can see how I correct that. So the point of this is really to add compression to your splint. This could also be used for metatarsal injuries, Lisfranc injuries. Legs, feet, they like to swell, and this is the number one thing you will do in an emergency room. So many different ways to apply your splint with this Bulky-Jones. I tend to use a posterior splint and struts. Some people just use a posterior splint and a coaptation splint around the ankle. I tend to find that I like the struts. I come way out beyond the toes, fold it back. One of the only casts or splints that I will fold my extra padding or my extra material versus cut it. And the reason is because it's nice to have a little bit extra support there. I also take my plaster, fold it away where I'm going to get a wrinkle. I take and just kind of fold it away. Make sure that any wrinkle is actually going away from the patient if there is one. And this fiber or this plaster wants to kind of fight me a little bit, so I'm going to. You want your struts to be supportive of the metatarsal heads because that's where you're going to hold 90 degrees. You don't want it to touch right here in the ankle. Again, even if someone was to walk on this, which none of these are made to walk on, they do hold 90 degrees. As long as you have those struts in there, it will hold. And as long as they're at the metatarsal head level, you can hold 90 degrees. And it can hold, believe it or not, some weight. The plaster posterior splint will break, but the struts will stay intact, holding it at 90 degrees. Again, I'm not putting any tension. I take her off the stand as soon as I can. I do not want stand marks in my plaster. I relax them, make sure that I use nice flat mold at the bottom. You can use stockinette with this to try to make it look a little bit nicer. Fold back. But this is your typical bulky Jones splint. Again, posterior splint, medial lateral struts, Jones dressing, compression of the web roll or the cast padding. Bulky Jones. 90 degrees.